We're back now with a look at the construction underway inside Fiserv Forum this past week. 1 week to go, the Republican National Convention kicks off next Monday in Milwaukee. First, though, a welcome party Sunday night at the Summerfest grounds is expected to bring some 15,000 delegates and guests.
One of the driving forces behind securing the Republican National Convention, Visit Milwaukee President and CEO Peggy Williams Smith, now just days from one of the biggest events the city has hosted. You have been at this from the beginning in working to secure the convention, ensuring it comes here. What is Visit Milwaukee's role now in this final week and the week of the convention?
We have so many different roles that we're going to play. Our team is on call the entire week. We're going to be manning welcome stations at hotels, at the airport. We're going to be watching social media, looking for anyone who may have questions, who may need help with something. We're going to be everywhere, making sure that the guests that we've invited into our city are taken care of.
You're on the outside of the politics of
Correct,
all of this.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
How important is it to showcase the city to everyone who is here?
I mean, I can't tell you how important this is for us. It's 15,000 journalists. My team has been on calls with media outlets from all over the world in the past couple of months, with people asking for stories that they can cover while they're here. What should they do? Who should they talk to? We've got a communications committee that's put together a pitch list that has gone to the journalists every time they've been here. We are ready. We just want them to tell the great stories that there are to tell about Milwaukee.
In terms of the welcome party Sunday night, that's going to be kind of the first Wisconsin experience for some of these delegates and guests. I mean, is that critical to kick off this entire week from a tourism perspective?
I think it is, and I think that the people that they've assembled to put this party together are absolutely phenomenal. The host committee has been integral. Reince, who's the chairman of the host committee, knows exactly what he wants to showcase to all of these people and these visitors who are coming into Milwaukee. I am confident it's going to knock their socks off when they get here. Well, maybe not their socks because it's warm, so maybe their sandals.
You've heard the storylines and some of the concerns. Is this going to be a boom? Is this going to be a bust for some of the small businesses? Do you have any concerns about that when you hear some of that concern as we're a week out?
I mean, I'm concerned for those businesses who may not have been able to get what they thought they were going to be able to get. But I will tell you that I've spoken with business owners all over the city who are making money on this convention. And it's a lot of them, and it's a lot of money. So I have no doubt that the numbers we put forth when we first brought this to the city and we talked about it will come to fruition. You know, if you walk down Wisconsin Avenue and you look at our bus shelters, C-SPAN is advertising on our bus shelters. That wouldn't have happened without the RNC. Some of those billboards that you see, either pro-Trump or anti-Trump or whatever, those things wouldn't be here if we weren't hosting the RNC. Some of the events that have led up to this amazing event taking place here would not have happened if we weren't hosting the RNC. So the money is there, the economic impact is there. I just want people to understand that that week they need to sell themselves. They need to change their menu, attract the people who are coming in, just like we would for any other convention coming into town.
When this storyline of the horrible city developed with Trump, whether you believe it or not, whether what was said or not, I mean, this took on a life of its own. What did that do for Milwaukee?
Well, I think people don't mess with Milwaukee, right? Stephen Colbert had the exact same reaction 3 years ago. It just came up in my Facebook memories. He said something about the DNC choosing Milwaukee, and he was very flippant about Milwaukee, and we came at him. We are not a very braggadocious bunch of people, but when you come at us, we come right back at you.
How closely are you watching the protests and what could happen and develop with that and the images that could bring to the city as well?
You know, I mean, those are the things I can't control. Yeah. You know, I believe in the political process and I believe in the process of free speech. And I think that there will be stories that will help tell our stories through that process as well. But those are things that I can't control. I'm not in charge of the police or Secret Service. So those are things I leave up to the people who are paid to be able to protect and make sure the city stays safe.
All right, the RNC officially kicking off 1 week from tomorrow, July 15th.
All right, we're back after this.